Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show. All right. So today we have a very, very special show. And we're going to start off with telling my success story with something that I was recently introduced to. So I'm going to tell you guys. So those of you who have been following us and have been on our Telegram group know the struggles that I've had. And so I've had long COVID symptoms, if that's what you want to call it, for almost 2 years. And I've struggled with a lot of stuff, severe joint pain, bloating, inflammation, whole body inflammation, going back and forth, trying this protocol and that protocol. Some will work a little bit and then they won't. And it's been a real struggle and a real challenge because I feel like, oh, this is it. You know, every time we get introduced to something, this is it. The niacin protocol, that was it. No, that wasn't it. Actually harmed me. And I think it's because I had a toxic liver. So given that, so starting in the end of March, I started having all kinds of intestinal issues, and my entire belly, everything in it was like inflamed, and I had bladder issues. I didn't know I had liver issues at the time. And I had to go to the hospital because I was in so much pain, and they diagnosed me with diverticulitis, which was very scary. And I didn't eat for days, didn't lose any weight, and I've had a really hard time losing weight. I gained like 30 pounds after I got sick in 2021, and I couldn't seem to lose it no matter what I did, including at that time, I tried to lose weight, even fasting for days, for a week, 5 days, nothing. And I was really worried because I was barely getting any better following the doctor's advice and doing what I thought I knew was healthy. And then I was preparing to move in March, and my symptoms started getting worse, and I got really scared. And I was trying different things. And then I ended up, I know this might not be great, but my poop turned white, which means that you're going into liver failure. And I'm talking white, stark white, for days. And I was so bloated in my belly, and I didn't know what to do, and I was really scared. And I was at that moment, like when I was really scared, because I was like, I don't know what's going on with me. I thought I was going to die. And that day when I got introduced to stem cell activation patches, and we'll bring our guest on in just a moment. But I started these on May 20th. And in 3 weeks of that, liver issues gone, digestive issues gone, bladder issues gone, lost weight without trying, continued to lose weight, bloat gone, 100%. And after I got sick in 2021, I felt like I had carrying around rocks in my lower gut, like all my organs. I would get up and it was like, oh my gosh. And I would just be doubled over in pain and this heaviness that is completely gone. I have had that every day since August of 2021. And it gone. All of this is gone in 3 weeks. And then it has continued to improve since then. And I've continued to lose weight without trying. I moved during this time. I've been eating hamburgers and ice cream and bad stuff, and I'm losing weight. And I have been trying to lose weight so desperately for 2.5 years. And then in addition to that, so I was using this patch called X39. You'll learn about it in just a moment. And then, and a few other ones. And then I ended up during my move, while I was packing boxes, I hurt my shoulder. I don't know what I did, but I really hurt it. And when I could not move this arm, I couldn't move my shoulder, couldn't move my arm, could not grip with my right hand, could not use my right hand. Can you imagine moving and not being able to use your right hand? I couldn't do certain things. Like I couldn't put on a shirt. I couldn't put on my bra. Like it was awful. And so I was in dire agony pain, and I happened to have ordered, coincidentally, this patch called Ice Wave. And I was like, what have I got to lose? And my chiropractor said I had pulled a tendon and had a brachial nerve impingement, which, according to Google and him, that it will take 2 to 3 months to heal if I only rest. And I had to move. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, I have to move. And so I was like, what am I going to do? I mean, I was at my wit's end, and it was my birthday, and I was like bawling my eyes out. And so I ended up, well, I might as well try this, right? And so I put the ice wave patch on, 2-patch protocol. The next day, I could move my arm. Pain was 80% reduced. And then I did it again the next night. And since then, no pain, 100% mobility. It's gone. I don't have to worry about it. So that's why we're bringing this to you now, guys, because we've learned our lesson not to bring anything to you until we've tried it. So now I've been on it for like 6 weeks or so, and I have never experienced this level of healing this quickly. And I ask God for a miracle to help me heal from all that ails me, and to also help me make money helping people. Because Annie and I have been helping people for a very long time for free. And anyway, so with all that said, we are going to welcome to the show one of the people that introduced this patch to me. Her name is Lillian Walker.
Thank you, Jodi and Annie. I'm really delighted to be here with you both.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, Lillian. We're so excited and so blown away by all these amazing, life-changing stories that we're hearing with people who are trying these patches.
Yeah. So Lillian, before we start with all the stuff we've heard about, I want to hear your story.
Well, almost exactly 6 years ago, because it was June 17th of 2017, that I was just 3 blocks shy. 3 blocks shy of finishing a 16-mile bike ride when I got hit by an Orange County Transit Authority bus, and I was hit from behind. I started off in emergency medicine, so way back when I was always used to, the times when I would have to drive the ambulance instead of being the medic in the back. We were always used to looking left, right, left, and then going. So that's been a lifelong habit. So I made my left look, there's no traffic, right, and I never got a chance to complete my looking again to the left, because what I did not know was I was on a street that was like in this direction, and on this street, an Orange County Transit Authority bus was coming, and then it turned. So by the time I looked this way, it turned onto my street, and I never got a chance to complete the look because then it hit me from behind. He actually saw me, the chauffeur actually saw me. However, he miscalculated. And then I went flying over my bike, suffered a traumatic brain injury, a C5, C6 neck injury, lower back injury, and I had a laceration that was from my ankle all the way up to my knee on my right leg, right on the bone. So I was in shock. I was in miserable pain, could not understand how did I get hit by anything, because there was nothing. Like I said, I looked left, right, and next thing I knew, I was flying. And so that was the beginning of I basically had the tables turned on me, because I had been originally, someone who's always the holistic care practitioner providing for others. And then my son, when he was 11, he had Guillain-Barré, which is a neurological syndrome where he almost died from that. And so that kind of is what forced me down the path of first pediatric neurology, but then later on just general neurology. And so that's where my specialty was with that. Never in a million years did I ever imagine that I would become a neurological patient. But I jokingly say, and I really do believe, that some of us have to get hit by a bus. The divine, our creator, knows exactly what we need. And in my case, I had to be hit by a bus to be where I am right here, right now with you guys. And even though I was already, applying many different modalities of healing and getting medical, I would travel anywhere in the world to get, as long as I didn't care so much about the certification. It was getting the knowledge and then the hands-on practice with people, so that then I could come back and I could use that with people who are in physical pain from whatever, either trauma or whatever condition or diagnosis they might have.
All right, a traumatic brain injury. So you said you were medically trained prior to that?
Yeah. So I started off, I was kind of fortunate in the sense that when I was 11 years old, I knew that I wanted to be a doctor. I didn't actually end up getting an MD, but I was in that track. So when I graduated from high school, I also graduated from being a medic. Like my last year of high school, second semester, was working for a private ambulance company. And I was also working in the ER because that was the quickest way that I knew of that I could actually get my hands on actually treating people and doing triage and, setting bones and doing all that kind of stuff. So that's how I initially got my teeth cut.
So how long was it before you were like, what was the aftermath of that accident? What were your symptoms and stuff?
So my symptoms, I had a very long grocery list of symptoms. And so they started off with, I was in terrible, like my neck and my back pain was horrible because I had impinged nerves in my C5, C6 in my neck and also in my L1 and L5, but my L5 was actually worse. And so every day the pain, it was 24/7. And anyone who's ever had any kind of neck or back pain, any kind of nerve pain, I think is kind of like that because there's no comfortable position. Sitting, standing, laying down, hanging upside down, doesn't matter. There's no relief. So you're walking on eggshells, it takes forever to sit down on a bed and then to slowly, again, like on eggshells, trying to lay yourself down so that it doesn't go from 8 or 9 or 10 to like nuclear because it's already excruciating. And you don't really think that it's possible. We question our ability to handle the pain because the pain is already so bad. And so just to sit down, just to lay down, just, heaven forbid that I had to sneeze or hiccup, cough, maybe you accidentally, something goes down the wrong pipe and you have to cough. Oh, that was like unbearable pain. And it doesn't let up. And so at the beginning, I got to say it wasn't that difficult at the beginning because normally when your body is not in that type of state, like my experience was that because I was athletically fit and because I always ate healthy and so forth. So my immune system was really strong. If I got a cut or if I, scraped a knee doing this or that, it would heal pretty quickly. But not after this, not, when you have a traumatic brain injury. And what I try to explain to people, because you can't see a traumatic brain injury looking at someone usually, sometimes you can, but oftentimes it's not so obvious. So it's an internal damage inside the skull, right? And so what you don't realize, it's no different than your computer at home. Your brain is your central processing unit. So just like you have a monitor right now, your monitor has all sorts of different programs. You've downloaded all sorts of different software. You have pictures, you have documents, you have all sorts of data that's stored there, and your computer is on. And you also have an internet connection, which is making this particular show possible. But when you have a traumatic brain injury, your internet connection was like yanked out. Offline, doesn't work, nothing you can do. The connection has been severed, it's been damaged. So there isn't any way to reconnect it anytime soon, which is why people have sometimes short-term memory loss, sometimes it's long-term memory loss. Some cases it's both short and long-term memory loss. And because you don't have that connection, your CPU is literally offline and you have that damage. And every time I've seen multiple doctors, scar revision specialists, et cetera, integrative functional medicine doctor, et cetera. And the neurologist would always remind me, they're like, you got hit by a bus, not just a little truck or another bike. You got hit by a bus. I'm like, that I do remember. And if you remind me one more time that I got hit by a bus, they're like, you're doing remarkably well. I go, no, I am not. It's been, 2 months. It's been 3 months. It's been 6 months. It's been 12 months. There's no improvement. This leg, the wound is still open a year later.
Oh my gosh.
The wound was still open and it also developed a rash all around the wound. And then, and then sometimes my lips would, during the winter, it was very painful and they would crack and they would bleed. And then my chest also. And so it was like all this stuff, but the worst was the neck and the back pain. And so I think So I did start, like in the second year, I became aware. I was horrified when I realized I have no short-term memory. I was completely unaware the first year, because when you've lost short-term or long-term memory, it's as if whatever those memories are, those experiences, they're not on this planet. They don't exist. They never happened. So you don't have like a faded notion of it. It just simply didn't happen. So it wasn't until my second year that my daughter kept on, repeatedly, she lived with me, and she would say, "Oh, Mom, did you blah, 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 remember that this morning at breakfast, or maybe an hour before, maybe an hour after dinner." She'd come back up and she'd say, "Hey, Mom, did you, you got whatever out of the laundry, or whatever." It doesn't matter what she was telling me. Or did you pick up this, from the art supply? Because she's a professional artist. Anyhow, so I would look at her. I'm like, "What are you talking about? I haven't seen you today. This is the first time I'm seeing you all day." And bless my daughter's soul. God bless her, because she is always so respectful. She never argued with me, but the look of bewilderment and puzzled, like she was so puzzled. She was like, and when the day that I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, Christelle can't be wrong every single time. I'm like, maybe I don't have short-term memory. So then when I went to go read a book, and that was the other thing. My eyes were vacillating, my vision. Oh, it was the worst, because I love to read. I'm a voracious learner. And I had gone to the ophthalmologist, had gotten 2 different pairs of prescription glasses, and I would try either pair on. Neither of them were working for me. Didn't matter. So in order to read, I ended up going to either Office Depot, and I got one of those sheets that are magnifying glass sheets that are plastic. So I would have to put that on top of a book. I would have to hold a magnifying glass and then see which of the 2 glasses would work for me to be able to read a book. Because I'm like, I was reading the book Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I was like determined. That was in 2019, 2 years after. I'm like, I have to.
Such a great book.
It was a fantastic book. And I'm like, this is going to be my Bible. I didn't say I was going to commit it to memory, but it was like my textbook. I was going to learn all the neurochemicals. I was going to learn everything, and to be able to quote it and to apply it, and to take my meditation practice, and kick it up a notch, which I was able to successfully do. But it took a lot of determination. And when I realized I didn't have any short-term memory, I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, so what I do for my patients now, I got to do for myself. Because I knew, based on Eric Kandel's work, which one of my friends is a physician, and he actually had lunch and knew Eric Kandel when he went to med school like 25 years ago. I'm like, I just found this out this last week. I'm like, no way, you actually went to lunch. You actually know Eric Kandel. So for those of you who don't know who Eric Kandel, he is the Nobel Peace Prize winner. And he was the one who basically discovered and brought to light the fact that neurons that wire and fire together, the nerves that fire together wire together. So when you don't have a neurological pathway of the brain, that groove is not there in the brain, just by, for example, people who are watching this broadcast right now, you're getting more intelligent because you're being exposed to new information that you've never heard before. So as you learn to, more about this information, and you start to get more familiar with this information, we actually get smarter, because 1,300 new neurons get formed as pathways of the brain just by you being exposed to new information. And with each day that you continue to repeat that, you actually get more intelligent. And so because I was aware of that, I realized, I'm like, okay, I need to, again, this is my textbook. I'm going to learn all of this content. I'm going to be able to quote it, etc., blah, blah, blah. And so, I also knew that I had to engage the 8 neurosomatic systems of the body that I was mentioning to you before, that I needed to repattern some of those. So part of my process was not just reading the book, sitting down paperback. I also got the electronic version. So in the morning, I'm engaging my auditory system by listening to it. Because the first 2 years I had, like the first year I couldn't work at all. I had to sleep so much. I had such heavy brain fog. I could not think. I had stuck brain. I had foggy brain. It was very, it takes a real terrible toll on your body. So now that I have this recognition and I have this awareness, I'm like, okay, so I've got to have the tactile book that I can highlight, I can write down, take notes. And then I also have to have the Kindle version so I can listen to it. So when I would wake up in the morning, eventually make my way to the bathroom, I would listen to it. Whatever it was that I had read the night before, I would listen to it. I would also highlight it after I was done listening to whatever portion. I would go back again. A lot of repetition, because I knew that I had to rewire the brain, refamiliarize, readopt it, learn it, store it on your left. My long-term memory was intact, knock on wood. It was my short-term memory that was the issue. And so the other thing that I would do is I would take that book, the paperback, and I would stand in front of the mirror. I would look into my left eye in the mirror because I'm trying to engage the opposite lobe, the right lobe. And I would read the book as if I was speaking, like I was Dr. Joe Dispenza's voice. So I was making that my own. And I would shift my weight between my left foot and my right foot because I'm trying to engage right and left brain hemisphere while I'm holding the book. I'm seeing the book. I'm reading the book, but I'm looking at myself, like personalizing it, if you will. So I'm really feeling it. And that was part of my process of rewiring myself. So fast forward now, I got to a year ago. It was like last May. So Dr. Nirmala and I have been writing this book based on her medical thesis since August of 2021. And so I had already recovered a good portion of my short-term memory, but I still had to, old-fashioned way where it's like you read things 2, 3, 4 times. You write some either note cards or you outline it, to learn it. And so Dr. Nirmala says, oh, I've come into contact with a group of research scientists. They're going to Belize. They're taking these stem cell activation patches with them. I think you'd be a great fit. Do you think that's something that might interest you? I said, I got to get my hands on these stem cell activation patches. You need to put me in connection with the researchers. I need to see if I can also make them available if any of my patients would be good subjects, for the research studies. And then, I'd like to use them too. So I didn't even see a patch. That's all she told me, but I was already familiar with stem cell activation patches, or not the patches. I was already familiar with stem cells because prior to my accident, I had Bruce Lipton, who's the father of modern epigenetics. He wrote The Biology of Belief, Creating Heaven on Earth, The Honeymoon Effect. Well, I had him at the time. I had a radio show, and we talked about these success principles of health and healing and all these things. And that's when the first time I had him on my show is when I learned that he started doing stem cell research and stem cell cloning before I was even born, back in like the early 60s. And I said, are you kidding me? You were doing stem cell research and stem cell cloning in the 60s? He goes, yeah, 1960, 61 is when I started. And then, of course, we know he also taught medical school in the 60s and the 70s. I'm like, oh my gosh. I go, when I was pre-med, I never heard of stem cells. And Dr. Phil Udarian, he was like this prodigy from Harvard, who was my genetics professor. He never mentioned stem cells, when I was in pre-med. So it wasn't until maybe the last 10 years that really we've heard a lot more about stem cells. And then you hear about people doing IVs and injections and so forth and all that. And that's really not really the mainstream people. That's, since then we've had people like Joe Rogan and Tony Robbins talk about it. So the bottom line is that's how I literally got introduced to the stem cell activation patches. And here we are.
So tell us what differences you have experienced since being on patches.
So since being on the patches. So first of all, between the 3rd and the 4th week, like I was one of those people who, when you put the patches on them, as sensitive as generally speaking, I am, I didn't feel anything the moment I put the patches on. Nothing. About 80% of the people that I patch, they feel something within 30 seconds to 2 minutes. For whatever reason, I didn't. Probably still part of my brain injury, but that's not necessarily true because I have people with brain injuries who all of a sudden they're like, whoa, everything is so much clearer. So everybody is different. So for me in the 3rd week, between the 3rd and the 4th week, I just all of a sudden, I was making my way reading through all 90 independent research studies and reading those. And I had already was in the process of creating what you guys have now seen, the 5 of 12 bullet points and the 12 of 12 bullet points. So I was distilling everything from all the data. And I was doing it for myself. And then I realized I need to, people that I'm introducing this to, my patients, friends, family, give them these bullet points. But it was a research paper that I read by Tang Meritus Medicine, who did a study on the ice wave patch. And when I read that paper, the way they had keywords in there, and it was organic, nanotechnology, photobiomodulation, and acupuncture. And of the papers that I had read up until that point, this was the only paper that had specifically that combination of keywords. And it just struck me in the moment. I'm like, okay, as I listened to the other doctors and holistic care practitioners and so forth about the stem cell activation patches, they do talk about wearable light technology. They talk about photobiomodulation, which that's what photobiomodulation is. It's wearable light technology and organic. But I really didn't hear anybody talking about organic nanotechnology using photobiomodulation with traditional Chinese medicine acupuncture points. So, and then as I read the abstract, I read the whole paper is really fantastic. And I did a video actually on it where I actually read the whole thing and kind of simplified it for everyone to understand what that study was trying to share. But when I read the abstract, I was like, this is such, and it was so clearly, because sometimes the research papers are not that clear in the way they language it, but this researcher actually was very clear in the way they languaged it. I'm like, I got to commit this to memory. I got to share this with people because this is a distinction which is really going to call to people's attention about what these are not just little Band-Aids. They look like little Band-Aids, but they're so much more powerful than a Band-Aid, right? And so I thought, wow, okay, I literally set it aside. And I said, okay, the next couple of days, I need to outline it, do 3x5 cards, and I'm going to have to learn it and commit it to memory. The very next day, I'm on a Zoom call and I'm doing an info Q&A. And as someone asks a question about, they have pain in this part of the body, I could literally see the paper in my head. I didn't have to memorize. I didn't have to learn. I didn't have to effort. All of a sudden, boom, organic, nanotechnology, photobiomodulation, acupuncture points. I just used those keywords and I could see it in my head. And then I almost verbatim, I was able to read what's on the right side of the abstract to them that LifeWave has created this organic nanotechnology using photobiomodulation, applying traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture points to effectively turn off the pain receptors in the body. And this created a significant effect in all of the subjects that were tested wearing the patches over a 30-month, it was a month period. And I thought, so after I said it, it was like, boom, it was out there. I was like, oh my gosh, that took no effort, took no learning, I didn't have to do anything. I just read it once. I'm like, wow. That's definitely better memory, more focus, and processing speed was like instantaneous. And so then I thought, wow, this is as good as my memory was when I was pre-med in college at USC. And then over the next few days, I realized, heck, it was better than what it was when I was in college or high school. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I have a better memory than I did when I was a teenager or in my 20s. Isn't that crazy? And I'm going, and this is only a month into wearing the patches. So that's why I played the little game like I told you before we went on air about, I'm like, this was just last week. I do these little games where, I remember the name of the people whenever I travel who is at the front desk. And then people that I'm traveling with are like, you remember that receptionist's name? You remember the bartender? You remember the waiter's name? I'm like, I do it because I can, right? So I think it was like last Tuesday, I was sitting down and it was like, ending my day. I was about to turn, Suits on Netflix. Not a plug for Suits on Netflix, but that's my mental bubblegum. And I thought, while a little commercial went on, I'm like, I wonder what's pi 11 digits out to the right. So I pulled my phone and I Googled it and it had 11 digits. And I just looked at it once and then I closed it. And I keep note cards. If you haven't figured out by now, I'm like a note card junkie. I'm always taking notes and so forth, right? So I had the note cards on my little coffee table, and so my phone is off, and so I just went ahead and I wrote down from memory 3.14, 15, 92, 65, 35, 9. Then I turned on my phone again. I'm like, damn. I'm like,
Wow.
that was, I didn't really have to learn it. I just had to be exposed to it once. Now, this is a year later of wearing the patches. So now the other thing I want to do, which I haven't done yet, I have to pull up the golden mean ratio. I'm like, let me see what the 11 did. Just for fun. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, it's just a testament to, especially since I had zero short-term memory before. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So, and that's possible for all of us because it's showing us that not only can you turn back your body to a younger, healthier state, but it's going to be a younger, healthier version, optimized version of who you were. Because, you know, I'm north of 50 right now. And so a teenager was a long time ago, you know, it's more than 20 years ago. And the reality is that my memory is better than it was when I was in high school. So I do know that when I was 5, I had surgery. I had eye surgery when I was 5 years old. And so since then, we now know that anyone who undergoes general anesthetics, every time you undergo general anesthetics, you suffer a traumatic brain injury. That's something that the masses don't know. And I've had nurses that have challenged me on that, OR nurses and so forth. And there's a wonderful anesthesiologist who's a Harvard and Stanford trained anesthesiologist. He's also an integrative medicine doctor, great bedside manner, super at educating, very compassionate. And he talks about how there are 4 things that anesthesiologists do every time they put you under. And so as a part of putting you under general anesthetics, there's 4 things that happen. First thing is that they have to wipe out your memory so that they have to give you amnesia so you don't remember the surgery because the body keeps score. So even though you're under, your body's experiencing a trauma by being cut into because of a procedure that's being done. So they wipe out your memory so that you don't have something that we call an abreaction, and you're not going to start, reacting because you're being cut into, right? The next thing is there's another drug that gives you this, it's basically hypnotizing you. The third thing is the analgesia, which is turning off your pain receptors so that you don't feel pain and you're numb during the procedure. And then the last thing is they paralyze your body because since your body is a surgery is a trauma to the body, and they don't want you flailing around because that's going to obstruct and it's going to harm you, right? So they need for you to be completely paralyzed so you don't move. So in order to have the anesthetics take, they have to lower your vitals. They have to lower your respiration. When they lower your respiration, your blood pressure, your pulse, guess what? You have your brain, for whatever length of time you're under anesthetics, the brain is deprived of oxygen, it's deprived of blood, it's deprived of nutrients, but it's what's required in order for you to have whatever that life-saving procedure is. Okay, so it's not done out of malice. It's definitely not done out of ignorance. It's done because that's the optimal way of being able to put into effect surgery, right? So I had surgery when I was 5 years old. I was under general anesthetics. They operated on both of my eyes. So I know that I had a traumatic brain injury from that at 5 years of age. So obviously my entire schooling was done after that happened. It's the only surgery that I had because I did have to have, when I was beginning my career in emergency medicine, I actually had my sophomore year in college, I actually had to have a peritonital cyst removed. And I remember the anesthesiologist saying, okay, you got some options. You can either go under general anesthetics, so we'll completely knock you out, or we can do a saddle block where we just numb you from like the chest down. I go, don't you go messing with my brain. I'm like, I know enough to say no to the general anesthetics. You're just going to not. And I didn't know yet about how we suffer a traumatic brain injury, but I just knew that I didn't want them messing with my head. And so I just did the saddle block. And he said, well, okay, we can do a saddle block. And that's what they do, for pregnant women. But some people still psychologically, because they can sense, someone working on you, they still have like phantom pain. I go, I'll take my chances. I'll chat up a storm with you. I don't think that'll be a problem. And that's exactly that's exactly what happened. But I didn't want that general anesthetic. So knock on wood, I didn't get a TBI from that. I got hit by a bus instead.
Oh my gosh. So Lillian, tell us how these patches work.
Okay, how these patches. So these stem cell activation patches, this is a really fascinating technology, which the scientist who created this is David Schmidt, and he had been commissioned prior to, he had been working with the Department of Defense with all sorts of other inventions. They had asked him, can you come up with something that does X, Y, Z? So because he had great success in creating these inventions that didn't exist before, they came to him with the charge, because it was the Department of Defense, of course, has to do with our military. And they said, listen, can you come up with something to boost the energy of our Black Ops Navy SEALs? Because right now the Navy SEALs, we're giving them energy drinks and amphetamines and speed. And although it does increase their energy, it's really bad for their bodies. And the problem is they crash when they come down. And we can't have them crashing because they're the first line of defense. And the Navy SEALs, which still to this day, it's true, the Navy SEALs, they're in submarines up to 90 days at a time. I actually have some friends who were, at the time, they were, in the Navy. And so they heard about these stem cell activation patches, but it was only the Navy SEALs, a division of the Navy SEALs, that had access to them. And so they were in submarines 90 days at a time, no fresh air. For 90 days, you're in this pressurized capsule. No fresh air, no sunlight. You are bombarded with blue light toxicity, which is not widely talked about. I know that you guys know about it, but we get blue light toxicity from not the incandescent bulbs, but the LED bulbs, from the electronic devices, from computer screens, laptops, iPads, notepads, etc., electronic devices in your home, the LED screens in your microwave, stoves, etc., etc., etc. And so think about all the electric, all those electric components inside a submarine. So you have all that blue light toxicity, all those electrical components. It's always the same lighting. Your circadian rhythms get messed up over 90 days because there's no light and darkness. And so they have a lot of blue light toxicity as well. So he went to create this, and he's a man of meditation and prayer, and he's divinely connected. I feel that he's always in that theta state, downloading and receiving packets of information. And so he just put it into meditation, and literally all this information came down in like a bundle. And he immediately went to his lab and started working on it. And it took him like 10 years to develop. But 22 years ago, he was able to create the stem cell activation patch, which is energy enhancer. And it worked magnificently. And then in 2004, we had 9/11 hit, defense spending changed, and everything is, I think you add enough time and then you recognize things are a blessing in disguise. Even my traumatic brain injury, when I got hit, that's a blessing in disguise. And so when the Department of Defense changed their spending and they released him from those duties, now he was free to extend the stem cell activation patches instead of just the energy enhancer. Then he was able to come up with an entire line of patches where it now takes care of all the systems of the body. Now, fast forward, it'll be 20 years next year that he created then, the company that is actually not only the manufacturer, but also the primary distributor in 81 countries globally. So these patches, so let's get to what these patches are and how they work. So if you look at this patch, it looks like a little Band-Aid. It's about the size, a little bit bigger than a quarter. You'll see on my wrist, I'm wearing that patch. In the middle is a crystal lattice, and that crystal lattice is made of organic sugars, organic salts, it's a proprietary blend of organic amino acids and hydrogen, water, and oxygen. And it's also set to a particular frequency. He actually used a specific machine in order to set this crystal lattice that has a very specific geometrical lattice formation. And it's also set to a specific frequency. And for example, the mother stem cell activation patch, as soon as you put this on your skin, your own body's infrared light is what activates. That's the battery that charges this, because this crystal lattice is acting like a diamond crystal. And so now your infrared light, upon contact, it bounces off of that crystal lattice that's mimicking a diamond, and it sends the infrared light signal back into your bloodstream, straight through your skin and tissue into your bloodstream. And in your bloodstream, your GHKCU copper peptides are activated. 1/3 of them pop on. Doesn't matter if you're 4 years old, 20 years old, 93 years old is the oldest person. I have two 93-year-olds that I've patched. So it doesn't matter what, 1/3 of those previously dormant stem cells. So if you're a kid that's 4 years old that was born with a rare condition, guess what? The original stem cells that you were conceived with in your mother's womb, those get activated, get turned back on. And that's why this rapid reparation starts taking place inside of the body. So this is the organic. It's organic because there's no medicine. They're non-transdermal. There's nothing that's coming from a medicine that's being put into the skin. It's reflecting back your own infrared light that activates those peptides. And each patch has they look the same. Like this one that I'm holding here is Ice Wave, but this one over here that looks the same, this one here is Eon. With the naked eye, they look the same. But when you read in the bullet points, which anyone who contacts you, obviously here through your show, they can have texted to them the 5 of 12 bullet points, you'll see very, very clearly that the mother stem cell activation patch does something very specific. The daughter stem cell activation patch has something entirely different that it does, as well as, the master anti-inflammatory patches. So that's what these patches are made of. They're organic, nanotechnology. I think nanotechnology has a mixed perception over the last 3 years, because I think there's some sort of fear and trepidation over the word nanotechnology. In science, nanotechnology, that just means something that is at a very tiny. Yeah, it's a tiny scale. So you can have like a crystal, like a sugar crystal. That's a nanotechnology because it's a crystal, just like you have crystals in Swiss watches. And we've been using crystals, diamond crystals and quartz crystals and all sorts of technology, really sophisticated science technology. Those are organic because diamonds are organic. Quartz crystals are organic. Sugar crystals are organic. Salt crystals are organic. So that's why it's an organic nanotechnology, and it's holistic, non-transdermal, non-invasive.
It doesn't conflict with any medicine, supplement, no procedure, nothing.
Yeah, there's no contraindication. You could have a pacemaker. You could have a pig valve in your heart. You could have titanium rods in your back and your leg, or any other parts. You could have a metal plate in your head as well. It's not going to happen. It's more of you that's actually turned back on. We're literally turning you on.
Yeah, because I believe you said that at 30 years old, you've lost 50% of your stem cells. They're dormant. They become dormant. And then by the time you're 60, it's 90 to 100% have been turned off.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what we're doing is now we're actually going back and turning on your original stem cells it's your original playbook. It's your original programming. It's almost like if you think about a computer, and let's say you've downloaded Microsoft or you've downloaded pick your favorite program. Maybe it's Final Cut Pro. I don't know what your favorite program is. Everybody has a favorite program, but it's like taking that program brand new from the box and reinstalling it again. It's not going to, your computer is going to perform better because whatever hiccups and things that have been contraindicating there, now it'll be overridden by the reinstallation of that program. So that's what we're doing. We're turning back on that original programming. That's why it's so effective with children, adults, the elderly. Heck, I tell people it's not limited to humans, all mammals.
Yeah.
I should say mammals and birds, because I do have one gal who had a parakeet, which when she told me that she patched her parakeet, I'm like, wow, I had a parakeet when I was in high school. And I was like, how did you, immediately I was picturing a tiny little parakeet and this being like a parakeet going, how did you where did you patch that parakeet? And she immediately said, oh, I put it on the perch, like right here on its little chest. Never bothered to ask her how she removed it because it's got feathers. So I don't know how she removed it or if she just let it fall off. But she said her parakeet was listless. So that's why she went ahead and patched it, and immediately the parakeet livened up. And I'm like, wow, so it's not limited to mammals because birds lay eggs, right?
Right.
Wow.
Well, somebody asked me to ask you, what about chickens? Because she raises chickens and she has chickens with health issues.
Yes. So after I heard, and this was in the fall, in the middle of the fall, when I heard this person report back to me that she patched her parakeet. And I said, wow, that's pretty awesome. So then I had a plant. If I had known I was going to show this, I would show you a picture. But the plant, I had gotten, those plants of IKEA, they're like a little bamboo shoot, and they've got like a couple, they're like little when you get them at IKEA, they're like $2.99, and they're about maybe 4 or 5 inches tall. And so I put it in a pot and I put it next to my bedstand, and I have a mirror that's right next to it. And so I thought about what she said, and I thought, okay, I go, let me see. I'm going to put X39 and energy enhancer on the stalk of the plant and see if it does anything, because it's a plant, right? So in a week, the plant shot up to almost the same height as the mirror. So I was like,
oh my God.
So like the first day or two, I go, am I imagining things, or is this thing actually getting bigger? But after a week, it was almost to the top of the mirror. And the mirror, it's one of those big round mirrors that are like this. So after a week, I had to take the patch off, because I'm like, if I don't take it off, it's going to hit the roof. And it's supposed to be a plant for my bedside. It's not supposed to be for the floor. And I don't want it getting that tall. So then I took the patch off. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing that again.
Wow, that's crazy.
Insane.
Well, and to me, stem cells are so important because they can transform into any cell that is needed for repair. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's exactly right. We call it pluripotent. And pluri, just like you have singular, you have plural. Pluri means many. Potent means potential. So the fact that it's pluripotent means that when if you think about when your mother's ovum united with your father's sperm, at conception, you have the completion of 23,688 stem cells that have everything that you need to form you in your mother's womb. At conception, immediately, you have a multiplication, and your stem cells start to release the cells that you need to form your body. You fast forward six to 8 weeks, and we can see through an ultrasound, we can see and we can hear that heartbeat at 6 to 8 weeks. And that continues. All that programming is there. It knows when the fetus is done and when it's time for you to literally be born. And it knows not to create another kidney, another liver. No, it knows exactly what it is that you need. And it has its own inherent programming that's absolutely perfect for you, for me, for everyone. And so you may have been exposed to something the second trimester of your mother having you in her uterus, or maybe the last trimester, maybe the day before you were born, maybe as you were being born, maybe right after birth, you were exposed to something. Doesn't matter. These stem cells can unring that bell. And if you ring a bell, you hear that sound. It's like a bad word. If somebody says something offensive to you, you can't unring that bell. Not too many things in life that you get a legitimate do-over. This is one of the few things where you actually get a legitimate do-over. You can unring that bell.
That's so powerful. That's so powerful. And what's great too is that so many people, especially people like you said, Joe Rogan and Tony, what's his name? Tony Robbins. Oh my gosh. And people like that who have a lot of money spend tens of thousands of dollars getting stem cell injections, and they're not their stem cells, they're someone else's stem cells, right?
Yeah. And so so that's a very great distinction. And again, to emphasize so that people are aware and begin to realize and recognize that these are not stem cell patches. These are stem cell activation.
Exactly.
So you can get stem cell therapy where they will either use a donor stem cells, which has a 50% rejection rate because it's not your inherent DNA. It's not your original blueprint, which 50% of the people reject it. 50% of the people get a benefit. Low odds, high price tag, because it's like $8,000 to $11,000 for a shot or IV session. And if you need multiples, like Dr. Stacy spent $125,000 for her daughter, Taylor.
Yeah.
and a little benefit, but Taylor was never verbal after $125,000 investment. She left the country to go do that. And so when she heard 3 years ago in May about these stem cell activation patches, she's a double PhD in integrative medicine, PhD in functional medicine. I wouldn't be surprised if she's the only human being I know that got a PhD in 6 months.
Wow.
Because her brain processing speed was so fast. I was like, oh my, that was last year. I
need that. I need that.
I was getting medical certification last year in Nevada, and she was starting her second PhD, also in Nevada, different places. And I'm like, oh, wow, she's getting, she's an integrative medicine doctor. Now she's getting her functional medicine. I go, oh, wow. So I figured in a couple years, 2-3 years for her to get it. By December, she's like, done. I go, you already finished that second PhD?
Wow.
Started at the end of July. She's like, I know. I'm like, man, your brain processing speed. Most of the reading she did it flying in planes, her textbooks. I'm like, that's crazy. But you can see if your brain processing speed, when you don't have to effort, you can remember, with a great degree of accuracy what you need. And so I was like 6 freaking months. That's like incredible. So with regular, so that people probably have, some people do, I know, have questions about, it's like, okay, what's the difference between an IV and injection of stem cells? Let's say donor versus your own. Donor, we already talked about, there's a 50% acceptance and a 50% rejection rate. So it's a 50-50 gamble that whatever you're paying, whether it's 10 grand or 50 grand or 125 grand, it may benefit you and may not. If it's your own stem cells, depending on the age that you are getting, because when they do your own stem cells, they actually draw blood from you. They have a special machine that they centrifuge your blood, separate the plasma out and so forth, the rich red blood platelets, and it's from there that they take out your stem cells, and then they can re-inject them into your body, whether they're injected or they're put in through IV. That has a much higher success rate because it's your own stem cells. But if you're north of 50, 60 years old, you don't have that many stem cells left, because when you're 60, you only have, at best, you have 10% of your stem cells left. So whatever those 10% of your probably very tired stem cells, you can see why, yes, no one's going to have a rejection of that. But if maybe you only have 2% of your stem cells left, you don't have a lot to work with. And the injection, when they do an injection, in less than 24 hours, those stem cells dissipate through your system, where you are getting benefit the day that you receive that IV or that injection, but the effect is going to wear out very quickly in time because it's not a repetitive action. Nobody can afford to do this every day for the next 365 days.
Right.
In contrast, this little stem cell activation patch, every day, 12 hours, your stem cells that you were conceived with are being signaled to turn on for 12 solid hours. So it's 12 hours of signaling, and then you remove them for 12 hours. And then you match that with 12 hours with rest, repair, and restoring cycle. And so you have to honor that. If you do 25 hours, 4 hours, let's say you went 24 hours and the next morning you woke up and you're like, oh, darn it, I forgot to take off my stem cell activation patches. No problem. You're not going to turn into a pumpkin. You're not going to grow a third arm or grow a tail. Nothing like that. No biggie. All you do is like, okay, you wore them for 24 hours. Now you have to match those 24 hours, rest, repair, and restore cycle for 24 hours. And then the next morning, then you can apply them again, 12 hours on, and then remove them after 12 hours. I tell people, make sure I set an alarm, even though I've been wearing my patches for a year now. I have an alarm that says apply the patches, and I have one that says remove the patches.
I do too. That's what I do.
I tell everybody to do that. It's a no-brainer.
Yep.
At home, things are a constant and you have your routine and your habits. But if you travel even a little bit, that's enough to get you out of your habit. And then you'll simply forget not to put your patches on, or you forget to take them off because now you're out, you're traveling. You just came back from traveling, Jodi. You know what it's like. And then you're with groups of people. It's 10 o'clock. Like I wear my patches. I was wearing them 10 to 10. Now I do like noon to midnight. But sometimes it's midnight and I'm still out with friends on a Friday or a Saturday night. So I don't really want to take them off while I'm at a restaurant or at a friend's house. So I'll just leave them on. And then I just set my clock an hour back so that when I get home, because I will forget, because you don't feel them.
I do that too. If I'm out, I'll change my alarm just so I don't forget. And then I'll try to change the one for the next day. That's 12 hours. Yeah. And then I try to back up. Yeah. But you get used to it. You get used to it because it's been so incredibly helpful to me that I don't forget, because it's helped me so much. And I want to say, so Annie and I have been diving into the testimonials of this, and it's overwhelming, the testimonials. It's almost like this has got to be too good to be true, because you just hear about these miracles happening. And we've got a web page that we'll send you guys to where you can link and to see certain things. But I mean, I saw testimonials of people being healed from the tremors from the that she had for 2.5 years nonstop, where she couldn't even hold a cup of coffee or sleep in 3 weeks. We've had people, and that same testimonial had Pam, who had the botched sinus surgery, and she had a 2,400-day migraine, intense migraine that was gone in 5 minutes. I mean, and just like the guy, I forgot his name. He was such a sweet guy. He had some sort of aortic, I can't remember it. He was going in for surgery, and they were prepping him for surgery like weeks after he was diagnosed. And they were like, we can't find it anymore. It's gone. And it was like, they had to cancel the surgery because it was gone. And he lost a bunch of weight. And, so it like runs the gamut. I don't know if I've seen a testimonial of something where it hasn't helped, and people who are recovering from cancer and have done chemo and radiation, and have all kinds of symptoms from that, as well as the cancer, and then they do this for a while and there's no sign of anything in their body anymore. There's several of those. It's really, and when I first was introduced to this and I saw the pictures, the before and after pictures, because it does reverse age you guys. I mean, like crazy. And you can't believe it. When I first saw the pictures, and we're going to show those, I thought, well, this is fake. This has got to be fake, And then I watched the testimonials of these people, and I was like, oh my God, that's not fake. How is that not fake? And so Andy, you can put them on. We're gonna go through some of these because I want Lillian to talk to some of these because it is astounding. It's astounding. Yeah.
Okay. So we talked.
And we've already gotten that. We've gone in her story. We'll share. If anybody wants this presentation, they can have it. But yeah, so let's look at some of these. So here's some anti-aging, which is just crazy.
Yeah. So this is a personal friend of mine. She lives 45 minutes south of me, and this is Marcy Preble. She happens to be our senior presidential director. Heart of gold. This woman is amazing. In 2019, she was diagnosed for the 3rd time with breast cancer, but the 2 previous times it was stage 3. This time it was stage 4. And when the patches, when she was diagnosed with stage 4, it was stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. And they had told her, we've done everything, chemo, radiation. There's nothing else we can do for you. All we can do is manage your pain. And there's nothing else that science has for you. And she kept on saying, there's got to be something else. And if you look at this picture, 2019, you could see the amount of inflammation, and she also had swelling in her face. She's got a whole lot of things. I do traditional Chinese medical facial diagnosing and so forth. You can see a whole lot of things going on because look at how her eyes are like, her liver's taking a hit. You can see there's like a little bit of fluid under her eyes. She's got a lot of stuff going on. She's got some homocysteine stuff going on. Anyhow, bottom line is not in good shape here in 2019. Then she discovered the stem cell activation patches, and she got on the patches, and look at her 1 year later. This is Marcy. That is not her mother. A lot of people say that can't be the same person. That's got to be her mother. I go, no, that's not her mother. That's what Marcy had, a tremendous amount of inflammation, a lot of swelling, a lot of edema, a lot of stuff going on. You could see also the quality of her hair. Look at how lustrous and how shiny her hair is now.
Yeah.
This is a year after being on the stem cell patches. Now she's been on the patches for 4 years. This is this year. This is just a few months ago. She took this picture. Marcy is tall, slender, athletic, great shape. If you saw her in person, you'd think, maybe she's 32, 33. I don't really know exactly how old Marcy is.
She's 56. She's 56.
She's 56. Okay, I didn't know how old she was.
Yeah, she said that, and I was like, "What the hell?" And she really looks like this, you guys, because she's on Zoom all the time, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like she doesn't have one wrinkle on her body.
She looks nice, and I knew she had to be in her 40s because she has a son that's in his 20s. So, but she looks like she's probably at like 32, 33.
Yes,
she's amazing. She's awesome, high energy, heart of gold, amazing.
Heart of gold. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next one.
Amazing.
Here's your friend.
Wait a minute, sorry. I skipped to me. So.
Yeah, this is Kathy McCarthy. Okay, Kathy, believe it or not, she is gorgeous. Okay, and it took a little convincing because she did not want to show her picture of her face. She had no issue showing her chest, but she's like, "There's no way I'm taking a picture of my face and putting that on anywhere ever." And I told her, I'm like, "Okay, I want to share, this picture on my Facebook page. My friends, everyone who's connected to me, they know that I would never put any BS and nothing photoshopped or anything like that. Heck, I don't even use filters or things like that on myself when I do anything. So they know that it's the legit thing. However, they're going to share that with people that are their friends that don't know me, and they're going to go photoshopped. They're just going to go photo, because that's what I would think. I would think,
yeah. I thought this was fake when I saw it.
That's got to be photoshopped. And I go, just like we do a Zoom call to just chit chat and whatnot. I go, just like we're doing right now. If you just come on a Zoom and show your face, because they're going to see on the Zoom what your face looks like. They're going to see that you don't have the turkey neck. They're going to see that there's no lines, just as you are on the Zoom. They're going to see that it's congruent with this. What's so amazing is that, believe it or not, when we did the interview, she was 63. So she's now 64. As you can see, she looks like she's 35. She doesn't
have one wrinkle. Wrinkles.
Doesn't have wrinkles.
Yeah.
And she's a professional she has held, I don't know how many world records in skydiving. And so she's in the sun all the time because she does that professionally, right? In the Nevada sun. Okay. And so this was January 2022, a year and a half ago. And she's like humoring when she was told, "Hey, try these stem cell activation patches. This is going to help you with your autoimmune disorder." Because her story, we see this and we think this is a big deal. This is actually the little part of the story.
Yes.
Big part of the story was that she had been suffering for 33 years with autoimmune disorder because she had 3 breast implants, and those breast implants had leaked silicone into her body, which caused this horrific autoimmune disorder that she had been plagued with for 3 decades. So as that was getting repaired on the inside, guess what? On the outside, this was being repaired. So you see, this is just 7 months of her starting on the patches. She went from having wrinkles to not having wrinkles. And so...
And tight skin, like the skin tightened.
Because collagen has been incredible, right?
Yeah, incredible. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So here we have, I don't know the name of this gal because I don't personally know her, but I know that this was a very short time frame. This was, I think, 2 weeks after she had gotten on the patches. And you could see that she clearly had, some wrinkles, a little bit of bags under her eyes. You could see the 11s here on her forehead. You can see a little bit of a line across the forehead here. You can see her widow's peak came back in comparison because this is rounded and now this is like growing down. You can see her original hair color coming in. You can see her lips are a little fuller.
It looks like a woman and her granddaughter is what it looks like.
That's exactly, that's exactly what it looks like. And so I don't know that she had any other medical conditions. I just know that this is her before and after that's showing the reverse aging. So someone who's healthy and who is just aged, of course, you're going to have a faster result than someone who your stem cells have to send energy to repair. Like in your case, Jodi, you had diverticulitis. That's a real tough thing. For people who don't know what diverticulitis is, it's kind of like having pimples in your intestines. And so when you have those pockets, it's almost, I'm not going to say impossible, because obviously, Jodi is fine now, but it's almost possible to restore the gut so that you can release that and, expectorate it out of this, just, remove it. So you have more energy for things that are not as critical in your body, because your stem cells do know how to do something called triage. It knows how to put in order of importance your heart priority, your liver is a priority, your brain is a priority, your broken big toe is not a priority. So if you have let's say a 95 or a 98% closure due to calcium, cholesterol, or plaque in your heart, you have a broken toe, make no mistakes, your stem cells are going to go, we got to fix that broken toe, because there's a lot of inflammation going on. But like, we have risk here. We only have 2% opening here in this arterial wall. If this person goes have a heart attack or goes into cardiac arrest, the big toe won't matter. So it's going to send more energy to the heart to start clearing out that plaque, that cholesterol, that calcium. And then it'll know to divide the energy. I can't say a percentage. I can hypothetically guess that maybe your stem cells will send 80% of the energy to your heart, because that's more urgent, and then 20% to your toe. All things will be repaired, but the priority is given to those things that are required to keep you alive. Okay. This guy, you could see how he was kind of balding here in the middle, and you can see how it's more filled in, and it's
in 2 months. That's 2 months.
And that's just in 2 months. We have a lot of hair testimonials where people were bald, have hair now, or had very thin hair, have much fuller hair. People who had white hair, whose hair turned back to their original color. A lot of original color, men and women alike.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this gal. So a lot of women, I've never heard the term turkey neck so much until I started using stem cell activation patches. And so no offense to this woman, but she herself called it a turkey neck, and several other women describe it as turkey neck. And so you could see how the skin is kind of loose around the neck, and there's not just fine lines, there's marked lines and wrinkles here. And it's not just limited to the neck, but you can see a pretty big difference between this neck here and this neck here. You could see on the chin too, this line.
And the mouth, the lips, the jowls, like everything is tightened.
Yeah, so the lips are fuller here. You could see the lines around the mouth. Mm-hmm. They're lessened here, and they're almost gone here. So yeah, so her skin is more supple. You have a lot more collagen that has been increased as a result, because the patches do increase collagen, which is a building block protein of the body for skin and tissue. So,
right. Yeah.
And it's happening inside the body. So you have any scars in the body, it's going to replace it. It's going to repair that cellular damage, but it'll also replace that scar tissue with the original tissue, which is really important.
Wow.
This is Dr. Stan. I love Dr. Stan. I love him and his wife, Jodi. They have such an awesome story. So they've been health and wellness. He's been a doctor for, I think, 30 years plus. And Dr. Stan, he was considerably, he just turned 65 right before Christmas. And so here he is, a little heavier, right? And so you fast forward in this picture, you see that in 18 months, he lost 30 pounds, lost 3 pant sizes. His testosterone levels rose 200 points. I'm sure there are 30-year-olds that are, coveting his testosterone levels, because
exactly
it's 200 points. In person, we were in Sarasota earlier this year, and he was not bragging. I think he was just like in love again, at another level with his wife, Jodi. And they're both two little lovebirds, and they're like the Ken and Barbie, no question about it. And it's like, oh my gosh, what it's done for our love life. We're like two honeymooners again. Well, yeah, if your testosterone is, think about it, testosterone is up 200 points and her hormone levels are, balanced and in homeostasis. I'm going to tell you a little thing about Jodi in a minute here too, but his hair from gray, it went back to his original hair color. He has better energy, more sleep, improved eyesight. He had to get a new prescription glasses because these were too strong. He talks about it feeling like a teenager again. I got to tell you, him and Jodi are doing way better than most teenagers, because last year, okay, so after they were on the patches for 18 months, in the last year, they decided to both become bodybuilders. They've never done bodybuilding before.
And they won.
And they won first place in his age category and in her category.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible. I wish I had Jodi's body. I mean,
Yeah. She looks amazing, and she's 63 or something. I was like, wow.
I don't know exactly how old she is, but I know she's in her 60s. And I know he just said that he turned 65. That was before Christmas. Yeah. So I'm like, holy smoke. We got to spend some time in Aruba together because we were all in the top 75 for North America. And that was the incentive trip that we won, all expenses paid. So it's a direct reflection of how many people's lives that we've been able to save with these stem cell activation patches. So Dr. Stan, he's amazing.
Wow.
And there's also wound healing, which is a really big deal and so quick.
Yeah. So again, when you just think about in your house, if you were to have all the lights off and you were to turn on 33% of the lights in your house, you would have a pretty well lit house. Okay. And so that's for someone who's 40, 50, 60 years old, really any age. Because like I said, we've seen kids we had someone whose child's finger was chopped off, and he was only 4 years old. And because they told him that he was going to lose the finger, and the mother luckily already had the stem cell activation patches. She's in Toronto, Canada. Yeah, I'm jumping over to that one. The doctor said it's like if we attach the finger, it's going to turn black and it's going to fall off anyhow. So we may as well just close it up. And she said, nuh-uh, go ahead, reattach it. We'll worry about the rest. And then she just took the patches. These are patches that are kind of linked together. I'm just going to show these here. So she took X39 and X49 as well as Eon, and she just wrapped it around his little finger right under the suture. And look at his finger, grew back with the nail and everything within 2 months.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so good.
That was a 4-year-old.
Wow.
This one, I don't remember what type of accident they had, but you can tell it's a pretty awful accident. And the time frame for this I know was less than 2 months as well. And this was wouldn't say it was a much older person, but it was probably someone in their 30s or 40s, and that's a pretty horrific wound to have. And
you can't even see where the wound was anymore.
Yeah, you can.
I mean, imagine the nerve damage.
Yeah, and the pain must have been like crazy. I can't even begin to imagine. You can't even tell that there was anything that happened to this person's hand, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's so good.
It is
incredible.
This guy had a snowboarding accident. He ran into a tree. Poor guy. What a horrible, horrible thing to have happen. And he was really concerned. Obviously, he was in pain. Because that's not, this is obviously something unwanted, but he was also really concerned because he's like, oh my gosh, I have a job interview. And he's like, I don't want to show up. They're going to think that somebody beat me up, and gives a bad impression. And before he got to his appointment, he was looking like nothing even happened to him. This is less than 7 days.
Wow.
So that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
This is another one. I mean, there's so many of them that are like too good to be true. They're so miraculous. So I always like to bring people's attention to the fact that this person has some serious disc compromise and their spinal cord. This person must have been, I'm sure if you were to rank their pain level, 0 being no pain, 10 being excruciating, they probably were at a 9 or 10 or maybe more, because this spinal cord is atrophied. It's pinched off at every single juncture. If you look at the membrane, that's the outside wall that houses your spinal fluid. See how thin this is?
Yeah.
Almost non-existent. In parts, it is non-existent, which means that it's super thin. They're at risk here. Look, it's even cutting into the spinal cord. This person is technical term, hot mess. Now you look at the difference in the quality of the spacing of the disc. This is a beautiful spinal cord. Look at how clean this is. Look at how thick the wall, that white line, that is the membrane of the outside that houses your spinal cord. This is a gorgeous spinal cord. It's like hard to believe that this is the same person. And even the subluxation, some of the bending of the compromise of that neck, this is taken from this angle, by the way, in case you're wondering. This is actually the chin.
Wow.
Wow. Even the subluxation, see how much straighter it is?
Yeah.
So, and this took a year and a half, from November 2018 to April 2020. Like that's like not only is it record breaking, it's amazing. It's unbelievable, but it's
well, and that recent testimony from that woman who I think it was from last week. She fell and broke her back and had a thing with her right hip and leg, and couldn't really walk. And she got on the patches, and she appears to be fine now. And her doctor does not know how she's walking. Like, he just said, "I don't understand how you're walking."
I can't tell you how. It's my new normal. And I put it in quotes, not to say to minimize it or to disregard it or dismiss it. I say my new normal because every single time I have someone who gets out of a wheelchair, like I have someone here who, this is their PET scan. They had stage 4 lymphoma cancer. This PET scan shows that 5 weeks later, the stage 4 lymphoma tumor that was in the stomach disappeared. 5 months later, the second PET scan shows no trace of stage 4 lymphoma cancer anywhere in the body. So that's my new normal. But I would never be so offensive or disrespectful to anyone to do a backhanded compliment and say that that's normal, because it is extraordinary.
It is.
We are not healing their body. I'm not healing. I'm not treating. I'm not curing. I'm not diagnosing them. Neither are you. That person's own body is restoring and repairing and regenerating itself. I'm just an educator, not
exactly.
I'm just educating you. I'm pointing you towards the information. Sure, I can guide you as to where to do the patch placement, what acupuncture points, what Veritas Consilium, which is what doctors call a protocol. It's a true plan of action that will magnify the effects of the patches, because we're putting them on specific acupuncture points because we want to get a certain outcome that can expedite things a little faster for you, because you can move your regenerative process faster. Little things like using the energy enhancer patch. But the bottom line is, really, it's your body that's doing that restoration. So we're not healing or curing anything.
Exactly.
I can't even use those words, but because only prescription meds have the ability to cure or heal you. That those are by those departments, if you will, those organizations.
Yep, we're very familiar with that, Annie and I are.
But we do regenerate your body. We are able to guide you towards a FDA compliant class 1 medical device that's under the general wellness category. This doesn't heal your pancreas or your lungs or your heart or your intestines or anything. However, it does repair, regenerate, and reset your body to a younger, healthier state, and systems of the body.
Yes.
So it can revitalize you head to toe, from your brain down to your toes.
That's spot on. We're letting the body we're supporting the body to do its own
what
own
it's
thing.
supposed to be doing, but we've been diminished for so long, right?
Oh yeah, here we go. The pet testimonies.
Okay, so this is a cute little dog who very obviously, evidently, they have a cataract in their right eye. This dog is 15 years old. And a couple months after wearing the patches, the cataract disappeared because the eye was regenerated to its younger, healthier state.
Wow, 2 months. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. And I found this one on the chat, and this was a woman whose cat was dying. And let's see here. And it was like 2 months. And he's fine now.
Yeah. and he had upper respiratory infections. Yeah, so we see this again. No one is so special that this won't work on you. All you have to do is drink your water, even if you don't do these patches. Let's say you decide, I don't care what modality, what device, what concoction, what thing you plan on doing with yourself. But as a general rule of thumb, even if you're not suffering with anything, you should be drinking 50% your fluid weight in ounces of water, because that is what's required for the body. Animals know this. Your dogs, if their water bowl gets empty, they go searching for water, because they know that they need to be hydrated all the time. So they're drinking water all the time. If it's a big dog, it'll lift up the toilet seat and it'll get water out of the toilet. Or they'll find water in whatever, stagnant water that might be sitting there from plants. They'll go searching out water because they know it. Humans, we rationalize, which is rationing out a series of lies, and say, oh no, I'm not thirsty. Maybe I'm hungry instead. Let me have some chips. Still depriving ourselves, from that we really need. So you really need to drink water. And that's very, very important to drink water. Yeah. So you have stem cells. Animals have, mammals all have stem cells. So it works on anything that has stem cells. Even if you don't have to believe it. It's like gravity. It's like you didn't have to have a belief when you were conceived in your mother's womb, and here you are.
Right. Well, and a lot of people have asked me too, like, where do you put them on animals? You can put them anywhere. They don't have to be stuck to the skin. And by the way, you don't have to buy stem cell activation patches for your pets. Yeah. You can use your discarded ones.
Yeah. You can take them literally off you. A lot of people will do that. They'll take their used patches. Once it's 12 hours, it's time for them to remove their patches. They remove their patches, just like these are old used ones that I had. And then they'll put it on the collar of their animal or under the saddle of a horse. So, and some of them,
they just have to reflect the light. They can even go through clothes.
It can even go through clothes. If the patch won't stick, let's say on their head or on their back, you can just use regular tape or any kind of tape to apply. Surgical tape, of course, paper tape. You can just go ahead, masking tape. You can to apply it to the cat or to the dog or to whatever the animal is, but it works. What I find fascinating is with dogs, cats, all the animals, is that you try putting on a cat or a dog, you try to put clothing or glasses or things like that. They don't really like it. So they try to take it off. Guess what? Of all the people that have patched their animals, the animals, they're so sensitive to energy. They immediately feel the effect of the energy. None of them try to take the patches off.
Wow. Isn't that interesting? Wow. Well, and I remember too, Kathy, the one with the chest, in her testimonial video, she was talking about her dog, and it was like a Great Dane. I think it was like 8 or 9. And it was like, I mean, they were going to put it down because he couldn't even barely sit. He was in so much pain. And they just decided to put patches on him, and you saw him, and then they showed a video and he's running around.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's, now he's like, he's acting like a young dog again.
He's acting like, he acts like a young dog. That particular, I love that testimonial. That was a few months ago. And Amy, her whole family was.
Oh, that's right. The one with the whole family. Yes.
The whole family, because she got on the patches first. Her mother was in a walker and a wheelchair. She got out of the walker and the wheelchair. Her father accidentally cut his finger down to the bone. He was breaking down corrugated boxes, and he accidentally almost cut his entire finger off. And I believe he was in his 70s. Went to the ER. They went to reattach it. The doctor said that it was going to take 1.5 or 2 for it to completely heal. And then, so they put the patches all around his finger. And then a week later, 8 days later, he went back to the doctor to have it checked up because his finger was like buzzing. And the doctor could not believe. He goes, your finger's almost healed. He goes, that's impossible as for someone your age. And he's like, what are these things? He goes, they're stem cell activation patches. He's like, they work.
Wow. Well, and I know a doctor that I've been supporting who has been diving down into this, and he wants to use them in the ER he works in. And he said he wants to use them in the hospital. And he said they can't say no because it's not a drug. It's not a supplement. Nothing goes into the body. So they literally can't refuse it.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So Lillian, was there anything else that you wanted to share? You mentioned about the water. That was key. I only heard that yesterday, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, the thing about the water. So, heck, we could do another hour just on water.
I know it.
I've got a couple of scientists that we do water experiments, and we program and we structure water. I do want to emphasize the water thing, because I think that's everyone really needs to be realize and recognize that our bodies are primarily made up of water, and so babies have like 82% water composition, because you're in that amniotic fluid in your mother's womb, and so you come out kind of juicy, and you stay juicy for a long time. But as we age, and as we I used to think that I had always been taught that as we age that we're about 70% water. But one of my mentors, Dr. Jack Cruz, who I believe I sent Jodi some links about.
We love Dr. Cruz. We love him.
He is awesome. And he says that by the time you're 60, you're about 50% water. I'm like, oh, that's pretty low. It's not good. And so it's really important to drink and hydrate yourself. We're going to go down and just take a peek. I'm going to kind of just pretend and make believe you can see the inside of your body. And we're going to go subcellular at this point. And we're going to take a look at your DNA. Your DNA strands, we know that it looks like a ladder, right? And if you look at the DNA strand, it is 92% water. So it is part of the building block, part of the programming. You have water in your DNA, which has certain programming that's carrying itself to effectuate certain effects and endpoints in your body. Wow. So when you are 2% dehydrated, you will actually feel physical thirst inside your mouth. That's where you feel thirsty. Let's go to 8% dehydration levels. Now, under a microscope, we'll see a DNA strand, and that DNA strand will start to unravel when you're 8% dehydrated.
Oh, wow.
8%. Let's go another 2% to 10%. At 10% dehydration, you will literally lose your mind, because your neurobiophysiology is so out of whack. Your chemistry cannot work properly. You start to lose your mind.
Wow.
If you get to 12%, you're dead, because your body cannot survive 12% dehydration.
Wow.
And so it is really, really important. I have people every now and then. I have someone who says, oh, I have a bad bladder. I can't be going to the bathroom all the time, or I don't drink very much water. I've known people who haven't drunk water for years, that they only drink flavored water, or, this, that, or whatnot. And I'm like, oh, your poor kidneys, it's really doing a number. And they say, can I use flavored water or vitamin water in lieu of clear water? I said, well, let me ask you this. Are you willing to take a bath in that flavored water? Do you wash your hair in flavored water? They're like, well, no, of course not. I go, well, why not? Because my hair I'm going to be sticky. It's not going to be clean. I go, exactly. Your body needs clear mineral spring water. If you can do whatever the highest grade mineral spring water that you have access to, or glacier water, really there's scientific research that says that water from rivers and streams that are closest to the place where you were born on your longitudinal latitude is ideal. But really, just make sure it's not distilled water. Obviously, purified is good, but not distilled. Definitely don't ever microwave your water. Don't microwave any food that you put in your body, because that's dead matter that you're putting into your body. It's pretty hard for your body to process that through. So water is the building block of your DNA, let alone the rest of your body. And so I'm a systems person. I like to set up systems in place to help you succeed, help me succeed. So I would never tell you to do something that I'm not willing to do. So as I sit here, I teach people, it's like, just whatever you weigh. If you weigh 200 pounds, you're a grown man and you're 200 pounds, that means you need 100 ounces of water. So you could either go to IKEA and get a couple of glass water bottles. Like, this is my glass water bottle. The bottom line is, or if you're 100 pounds or 120 pounds, whatever your weight is, you take that number divided by 2, and that's the number of ounces that you need to drink. And then measure it out. It could be a hydro flask. I personally like the glass water bottles instead of the hydro flask. I structure my water and program the water. That'll be another discussion that we can do. But the bottom line is that you have measured out your water. You visually see the water. There are times that you get busy and you won't think of drinking water. But if you have the water bottle where it's in your field of vision, you're like, oh yeah, it's been over an hour since I've had water. I'm going to drink water. Here we are, whatever time it is. And you see, I only have this much left. And so I have another water bottle that by midnight, because I don't go to bed till after midnight, but I know that before I go to sleep, whatever water I have left in that second bottle, I make sure I finish it so that I get my allotment of water a day. And you can always drink more than that, but don't drink less than 50% your weight in fluid ounces of water.
Wow.
One of the few things that you might be able to substitute some of that volume with would be coconut water. When I was a paramedic, we were taught and trained that we could use coconut water, whether it was straight from a coconut that you cracked it open. You could use that to bring somebody's blood pressure up through intravenous, using it as an intravenous fluid in lieu of saline solution.
Oh, wow.
Because your blood is 0.09, the plasma in your blood is 0.09. And so saline solution, that's why it's 0.09. And so believe it or not, coconut water is 0.09 and it has electrolytes. So you can use that out in the field in a pinch to bring somebody who's had a lot of blood loss. We can bring their blood pressure back up, introduce fluids, rehydrate them, etc. with coconut water. So I would take a bath in coconut water, but I know that your body absorbs coconut water as easily, if not better than water. So I would definitely use, you can include that in your intake of water.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. Yeah.
If you guys want to learn more, we have created a page on our website that has, if you want to learn more about the patches and the technology, if you want to attend a live testimonial Zoom call, they have those almost every day. And we have links to that where you can register for it. We also have links to a deeper dive with Miss Lillian Walker here, and where you can ask her questions, and she does it. She's so generous with her time. She does it almost every day, sometimes twice a day. So you can register for that. So you can ask her all questions. She describes all the different patches and their benefits, and she'll answer any question. She's amazing. And then also, if you guys, so that's all laid out on our website. But if you're ready to dive in and go, I want this right now, I don't care, I want to get it, you can go to our website, our storefront, which is lifewave.com/wellness superheroes, and you can shop there. If you're interested in getting practitioner prices or enrolling to get a better deal, just contact us and we can quickly do that for you at the level that works best for you. So you can just email us at our regular email, and it's all on the website. So you can email us that as well.
And if I could just share also, I would like to do a special giveaway for your listeners and your viewers here. So when you first come in contact with Jodi and Annie, if you decide that you want to do a deeper dive into this and want to learn more, you would like to get started on the patches, when you reach out to them and you join their Telegram group, where they give you a lot of really juicy, precise information on all sorts of these biohacking tips and so forth, and things like the stem cell activation patches. Within the first 24 hours of you contacting Jodi or Annie, when you join the Telegram link, if you get started that same day on the stem cell activation patches, I will personally send you an energy enhancer sleeve as a thank you for learning about this. This is my passion. You can see I still have my Christmas tree up, because for me, this whole time that I've been with you, I got to be Santa Claus. I'm a girl,
Exactly.
Santa Claus, that I got to share with you this life-saving technology. But I'm also the little kid under the Christmas tree going, wee, wee, wee. Oh my God, look at the surprise. Because every time you guys send me or send us a testimonial, a before and after picture, a video, every single day I get these. And to me, it's like it really is the most euphoric. It's like the most incredible feeling. I can't imagine living any other way and doing any other thing. And as we continue to grow and more people learn about this and we prosper more, I'm able to, at the beginning, I couldn't afford to give these away, but now I can. And one of the goals that I have for this upcoming Christmas is to give 22 people 1 month's worth of mother stem cell activation patches. So because Jodi and Annie are part of my group and my team, you guys and the people that you know, who knows, maybe you'll be one of the 22 that will receive a month's worth of, and that'll be in December of 2023.
Wow.
Perfect. I love it.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Lillian,
Yes.
for all your time, your wealth of knowledge.